Right, great. Let's get started then. So, yeah, welcome to the next instalment of these monthly breakfast meetings. For those that haven't been before, thanks for coming along. For those that have been before, welcome back. Hope you enjoy this morning's session. For those that are new, really the only point of these talks is that can you leave feeling better prepared or to make smart decisions with your money. And every month there'll be a new topic that is talked about. So last month, for example, for those that were there, we discussed the different investment platforms and applications that one can start using when it comes to starting to invest your money. But today it's all going to be around money mindset and your relationship with money. You know, is your relationship with money a good thing or a bad thing? And let's discuss that, and let's try and support you with that. And this will be kind of an ongoing, evolving group. Every month there will be a new topic, as I say. Please feel free to ask as many questions as you want. Butt in, please. I don't want to be talking to you guys for an hour. Do want this to be kind of a two-way dialogue as much as possible. And a kind of quick disclosure, I've been working in financial services and wealth management for going on 10 years now, give or take. Qualified financial advisor, and have a very keen interest in the world of kind of financial markets, investing and trading, and have been doing that quite heavily for the last few years or so. So if I can impart as much knowledge and experience onto you guys as possible, and fantastic. Really, this is just to kind of help promote financial education and literacy to as many people as possible. And in a second, if that's okay, I'll just get everyone to quickly introduce themselves. But I wanted to quickly highlight just a few things that we're going to be covering today. So the first point is answering two, I feel, fundamental key questions. And the first is, what is money? What does money mean to you? What is the concept of this stuff? Yeah. And the second one is, why is money important to you? So have a think about those two questions now. And again, we'll come back to that a bit later. And then what I'll also do is pass on to lovely Natalie, who's a wellbeing coach. And she is going to delve a little deeper in terms of what our values are and how we can align our spending or saving habits in line with those values. So hopefully some of you have completed that values-based questionnaire. I know some of you have, some of you haven't. For those that haven't, have a think about what your top 3 to 5 values are now. So is it family, friendship, love, happiness, financial security, whatever it is, just have a quick think about that. And what we'll do is, as I say later on, is we'll go about designing a way that you can align your spending habits in line with those top 3 to 5 values. Okay, happy with that, everyone? Yeah, thumbs up. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to go around the room now, and I'm going to get everyone just to kind of introduce themselves. If you could, so here you are, and just share with the group why you're here today, what brought you to this session, and if you have any niggling concerns or negative thoughts when it comes to money, if any at all, please feel free to share that as well. So I'm going to go with the first person on the screen, which is Gina. So, just in very quick, 10-15 seconds. What brought you here, and do you have any kind of negative thoughts or anything like that, or any concerns?
Not really negative thoughts. Hi everyone. Good morning. Yeah. So obviously, I just want to make sure that I can create a better quality of life for the future, and basically, the money is the best tool for it, right? So I want to make sure that next time I invest in something or I want to make any financial decisions, I do make the right one. This is it, really.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So a better quality of life.
Yes, indeed.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Okay, I might come back to that point a bit later. Actually, I might pick on you, Gina, if that's okay. Fantastic. Okay, thanks for that. Samantha?
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm here because I've been part of a book club doing personal development, and this month's book of the month was about money mindset. Because we're trying to create success amongst the group and what have you, and grow. And my money mindset's not been good. I used to have a very good money mindset when I was younger, until I got married and divorced and bereaved and lost my parents and stuff like that. So and then my money relationship has deteriorated quite somewhat. And I was quite shocked when I did the personal values thing, because the only money related item that comes in the top 10 is about giving it away. It's about giving contribution and giving it away to others. So I don't have a very good relationship with money, and I don't plan for the long term, and I want to do something about it, and now's the right time to do it.
Amazing. Well, thanks for sharing that. And really sorry to hear about your parents. I know you kind of emailed me about that the other day, didn't you? And hopefully we can talk about that a bit later on. Thanks so much for sharing that. Jose.
How do you pronounce my name?
Jose.
Right, after all of this time. Okay, we'll talk about it later.
Jose.
Hey, there we go. We're getting there. Okay,
Jose.
Cool. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't say Jose. Normally I say Jose. I said Jose.
Well, okay. There we go, guys. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Well, apart from knowing David for a while, I definitely want to learn more about how to invest in a smarter way. I'll probably say in the past 10 years, I made 3 very bad investments that left me pretty much, I wouldn't say broke, because I can still put money on my table, on my plate. But yeah, so I want to get ready for when that money starts coming in again, how to keep it invested and really make it work for me. What are those elements that I need to consider in an investment before I go ahead? Because in the past I was just, yeah, that sounds good. Somebody said it was, yeah, worth it. Money was flowing. Yeah, let's invest here, let's invest there. And now I don't have money to invest. So that's what I'm here for.
Right. Yeah. So what happened with those investments? Did the markets fall and did you just lose the money, or?
Well, I started with Forex. Okay.
Yeah.
And I rushed into it. Again, part of my personality and those values got involved. Then I invested with not my younger brother, my older brother in Panama. I invested with him in a franchise, and I invested with him in another franchise over in Puerto Rico. And the 2 markets were about to crash without us knowing before we invested. So yeah, all of that money is kind of gone.
Right.
So yeah, that's me here now coaching people, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I want to do more of it. And I also want to have my money working for me, because I like business.
Yeah.
Business and marketing is what I like a lot.
Yeah. Right, it'd be great to hear more about that. So, Jose, perhaps we can talk about that more after this session. Brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. And Natalie.
Yeah, so as David mentioned, I'm a wellness coach. I trained a few years back, and for me, this area is super interesting. And from my point of view, I have a lot of kind of negative beliefs around money from my childhood, which were instilled from my parents. And I think a lot of people are like that. We kind of take on the conditioning around what we learn around money from other people around us. And I think now in my 30s, I'm trying to consciously be aware of build my own relationship with money. Hence, this kind of conversations come at a really good time. And the negative belief from my parents is about kind of saving very hard and not spending money on anything. So that's kind of what I'm working against and trying to kind of enable that to kind of flow a bit better, really. So yeah, really interested to kind of explore this a bit more.
Yeah, and I'm sure that resonates with a lot of people, doesn't it? Your relationship with money, you can be kind of pointed on what how your parents grew up around money and the kind of the language they used with you, and that would obviously go on to who you are today and how you manage your finances. So yeah, that's great. Thanks very much. Freddie.
Morning, everybody. So I'm here primarily because at the moment I work for money as opposed to getting money to work for me. I have a couple of investments predominantly within the crowdfunding sector, having previously worked in that line of industry myself and taken a punt on a couple of businesses, which is more passion than it is money orientated, I think, to be quite frank. And yeah, I work in sales, so of course, obviously, sort of fairly financially driven. But as I said, it's very much me doing the work to get the money in, as opposed to getting the money to work for me. And yeah, personal reflection means that I need to get better at the other side of things. Hence why we're here.
So for you, it's about trying to get to that point of financial independence, not having to rely on your day-to-day job.
Correct.
Bills
Correct. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Great.
I've got a lot of
Awesome.
respect for people that obviously get money to work for them, and
yeah,
there it is.
Brilliant. Thanks, Fred. Okay, Felicity.
Oh, look, my. Oh, I'm unmuted already. Okay, that's okay. Right. Hello, I'm Felicity Lester. So basically, I was a school bursar for 12 years, and now I help people reduce their business and home energy and costs and things. So to build up a residual income, because sort of after leaving as a school bursar, I did fall off a ladder and fractured my neck and back, and had 14 months of not managing to do much but be on a sofa. And I suddenly, this guy that had been banging on at networking about residual income, and I hadn't listened to, I then thought, you know what, maybe I better take up this one instead of my spare time anyway. So that's why I took the job I've got. So I'm building that up for the passive income. So if I'm on the sofa again, I'll be at least have something coming in. And then I've got the sort of conundrum of things like my husband's 14 years older than me, so he's 72. So his actually had cancer a couple of times, but he's perfectly fine now. But we've had that battle twice, serious times over the last 20 years. So we've got a mixture of me being 58, him 72. So we need a mixture of let's enjoy life while we've got it, because we don't know how long it'll be around for. But also then we've still got to live and got enough for me later in life as well as him if he ends up living longer. So it's that mixture of wanting to spend but save. So that's a bit of a conundrum, because he really should be able to, he's semi-retired. He's been forced a bit retired now because he has to travel to Eastern Europe if he does his work, basically. So he's got no income at the moment. I have the battle as well that I seem to spend so much time helping charities, helping other people, like the 95-year-old around the corner and the 81-year-old and all these different people. So I do spend much too much time doing that kind of thing, and I need to focus more. I am about to start a, coaching course to try and make me focus more. So I'm starting that to try and make me maximize the time I do working to get maximum income. So that is my one tick in the box that I've started to do positively, because I mean, things like last Friday, it was 6 hours I spent with a 95-year-old sorting her paperwork out for free and things. And, I've got to start focusing a bit more. In the past, we've made some bad investments, I must admit. A bit embarrassing, but this is confidential, isn't it, with everyone? But what we did do is when he got his first cancer 20 years ago, and the girls were 5 and 6, we thought we had no income instantly because he was self-employed and I was job hunting. So I lost my job. Well, couldn't job hunt because I had to look after him. But we then invested in buy-to-lets. So that was a big mistake, because we thought, great, we'll have buy-to-let. Regardless what happens, we'll have an income and we'll have something to sell later. All three have gone tits up. One of them in Nottingham we sold 2 years ago, negative equity, 17 years later. Spain off plan, never happened. We then spent 9 years taking a group of us, taking the bank to the builders to court. And it was Banco Spain. We just won our court case last Christmas before last. Then the government decided you can't take Bank Spain to court. So we lost another 30,000 there. So the Spanish government's protecting its own bank. And so all the British investors lost out. And the one in Manchester, we stupidly decided to keep because it was the place to invest because it was up and coming, had the cladding problem. It's only a 1-bed flat. And so it's between 13 and 20,000 that we're going to have to pay for the 1-bed flat for the cladding. And because we started work prior to the government grants, we don't get a penny of the money the government's giving. And now they're saying also the balconies are wooden and they might have another £10,000 bill. And we only make £1,000 a year on that one. And so probably about 25, 30,000 loss there as well. And it's still negative equity 11 years later. And so, yeah, our investment strategy went wrong. We thought, so we ploughed a lot of pension and stuff into that, thinking can't go wrong with buy-to-lets. So now I'm thinking, what do we do? We need sort of mixture of money now to enjoy life, but invest for the future. And so that's where I am, sort of trying to think. So that's why I'm here.
I think that, you know, there's kind of no silver bullet solution when it comes to investing, isn't there? It just kind of goes to show you can think a certain investment is completely safe, and actually, as you just described, it could go completely horribly wrong. And so, you know, obviously you try and learn from those mistakes, but I always say try and diversify the money as much as possible across different asset classes. You know, don't just go fully into property and whatnot. But no, I'm very sorry to hear about that. It's great to hear that you're building up passive income as well, you know, because that is really important, isn't it? If you just, especially for later life. So yeah,
that's what I thought. Whatever happens, that could be there.
Yeah, let's take that conversation offline after this as well. So see if I can.
Sorry, mine was a bit long.
That's okay. Thank you, Patrick. So you're on mute, mate.
Hi everyone, I'm Patrick Orr. I'm a company commercial lawyer. I've heard David speak a few times before. I know he's very good. So I'm mainly interested in hearing tips, tricks, etc. What to do, what not to do. And again, lots of what other people have said resonates with things that mistakes have been made in the past, and not necessarily by me, but people who in my family.
Brilliant.
So
perfect. That's perfect. Thanks, Patrick. And Abby.
Good morning. Just realized I was on mute. Well, before yesterday, I thought I was very, very good with money. And I think I still am very good with money. And then I met with David and, you know, he kind of walked me through some of the findings that he's done recently and a new way to look at money, and which was very enlightening. And knowledge is something that, you know, you just have to, you seek every day. Nobody knows it all. And I thought, yes, I better be a part of this group. So that's why I'm here.
Thanks for that. That's very kind of you. I didn't tell her to say that, I promise. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks ever so much for that. Thank you. And last but not least, Aaron.
Morning, guys. Sorry I was late. Yeah, so for me, I mean, since moving to the UK, I've been here for 4 years now. The first 2 years were just traveling and not doing a great deal of working or investing for that matter. So I guess it's just having a look around. I mean, having my own business now, probably investing a lot of what I do get back into the business to really sort of get it to a point where it's self-sustaining and really sort of generating the most. I think that's, you know, based on a lot of conversations I've had, the best return that you can get is probably from investing back into your business. Maybe not the most safe thing at the moment, because as you were just saying about diversifying, but obviously it depends on the business you're in. But also I think, you know, I get really interested by the different mindsets that people have about money and how they talk about money and their relationship to money. So yeah, that's what probably.
Yeah, that's so clear, isn't it? I mean, you know, Natalie and I want to develop a whole workshop solely focused on that. You know, what language are you using when you come to talk about money, or how are you thinking about money, and those negative connotations that might have further on down the line.
You don't even realise we're doing
this. Yeah. So this really is kind of the starting point to, you know, a whole host of sessions that we can do. And, you know, today really is just kind of scraping the surface. So I'm going to kick start now. And as I said at the beginning of the call, what I'd really like to do is start with a question. And just please shout out, what do you think that is? What do you think money is? Shout some answers out. Is it just paper? Is it plastic? What is it? What is this?
Freedom.
Exchange.
Exchange. Yeah. Go on.
Power.
Go on, Owen.
Status.
So it's status. Yeah. The more you have of it, the kind of the higher up in society you are. Okay. Fine. Yes. Owen, can I come back to yours? You said exchange.
So an
What do you think
exchange
about that
of value, an exchange of energy.
Exchange of energy. I like that one. Exchange of value, yes, as long as the two parties agree on the value,
Yep.
of course. Exchange of energy, I like that. Anyone else? What do you, if an alien was to come down to Earth and say, and you try and explain to that person, that being, what that is, exchange of value is a good one. Or
The ability to swap, sort of to swap that for whatever you need or desire at the time.
yeah. Ability to swap for goods and services.
Yeah. It's kind of
Yeah.
barter type thing, really. It's
Yeah.
ability to gain what you'd like.
Yeah, definitely. Again, you need to kind of base this on some sort of intrinsic value then, don't you? So how would you put value on that? I guess is the question. But the whole right. So something that I heard, and these are all fantastic answers. Something that I heard the other day, which really resonated with me quite well, and it's certainly kind of changing the way I think about money, is similar to what Aaron said, is money is something you trade life energy for. Money is something you trade life energy for. So trading time or energy for money. Let's have a think about that for a sec. So what you're effectively doing on a day-to-day basis is you're selling your precious time, which is the most precious commodity there is. We only have a finite amount of it, don't we, for this stuff, which really intrinsically has no meaning to it, does it? You know, really, this is just fiat currency. I mean, the only value it derives is the value that the government says it provides. Time is where we provide most of the value in our life. So how much time am I willing to sell for the bits in my life? So for example, this laptop that I'm working on right now, the car that's sat outside, or the diploma that's hanging on my wall. And how many hours of my life did I invest to get those things? And just to kind of drill a little bit further down. So it's a kind of a crude example. Let's say you're earning, I don't know, £50,000 a year. Okay, now that roughly translates to about £25 an hour. But then how many hours and how much money are you spending going to work, spending money on all the food that you're having when you're at work, buying the business attire that you may need, you know, a suit, for example, going on holiday. So what you might want to do is work out, and I'm just going to share something with you guys really quickly, because this just helps to illustrate this a bit better than what I'm saying. So give me 2 seconds. And I would encourage you guys to actually go through this exercise yourself, if you can, in your own time. So hopefully you can see my screen there. Can you guys see that? Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. So bear with me here. This will start making sense. So you're earning £25 an hour, excuse the dollars. You're working 40 hours a week. But again, how much time are you spending? Oh, sorry. God. Sorry about this. Oh dear. How much time are you spending, as I say, commuting to work, eating the meals, going on vacation? You might want to then start adding up the total hours you'll spend doing those activities and the money that you're spending on said activities. And then what you can work out is what your net amount that you're earning per hour. And in this very crude, rough example, we've whittled that down to 10. Okay. So again, I would encourage you in your own time to kind of do, and I'll share this with you after the call. Just do those rough calculations yourself. And then what you can start saying is, right, okay, fine. So I know what my net hourly wage is. So what are my spending habits? How much am I spending per month, for example, on buying magazines down the corner shop? Am I spending, let's say, £80 a month on magazines? I don't know. So then what you do is you take that £80 and you divide it by your net income per hour, net salary per hour. So in that example, 80 divided by 10, that's 8 hours a month spent buying magazines. So then you can align that with your values. So is your value spending more time with family, spending more time with friends, sleeping more, catching up on all the work that you've been procrastinating over? You get the point, hopefully. So if you can start thinking of money in that terms, in terms of time spent, then you can start changing, hopefully, your spending and saving habits. And I really like that. And that might be super obvious to some of you here, but when I heard that, it was kind of like a light bulb moment. It's like, wow, actually, yeah, you're right. Because let's say another example, let's say mortgage repayments, £1,500 a month. If you take the same example, that equates to 150 hours per month spent having a roof over your head. Now, again, is that in line with your values? It might be, it might not. But again, I would just ask you to go away and do that kind of rough example calculation exercise in your own time, and let me know what you come back with. Anyone have got any thoughts on that?
Yes, I did fill out the test, and I just wanted to find out if actually the order has any meaning. So obviously, what we got as a result, there was a order of that.
Ah, do you mean the yeah, let me just share it again.
Yes.
So no, in short answer to your question, no, it doesn't have any meaning.
Right,
you can,
okay.
you mean these costs, these adjustments?
Oh no, sorry. I thought you asked about the
Oh,
test
are
we
you
had to
talking
fill
about
out.
the values? No, sorry,
Yeah.
we'll come on to that in a second. We'll come on to that in a second.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
ask, what does decompression mean? By being
Decompression?
Yes,
Do you know what, actually, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. Oh, it's not just me then.
Maybe they're a
I
scuba
don't know,
diver.
some with the American terminology. This was taken from this book. You'll love it, and this is American, like some weird American terminology. I don't know. We'll skip past that bit. But you get the
You
rough
say,
idea.
Aaron, it's decompressing after having fun scuba diving. Yep.
I think it's really
Well,
good.
In the past, that's been a long time, but no.
Yeah.
But it
Sorry, go on,
it keeps you like focused on the important thing. It kind of reminds me of, you know, when you're talking to a business owner and one of them, they could be in exactly the same industry, and they both have one has $1 million business, £1 million business, but they're only making, you know, a 5% profit compared to someone right next door doing exactly the same thing, who could have a £500,000 business, but they're making 50% profit. So it's really, you know, what are you actually getting out for what you're putting in, and what are you measuring, and how important is that in line with what's important?
100%, definitely. Yeah.
I'm also
Anyone
actually
else?
think we're going through this process at the moment because we're thinking of moving house to get the equity from the house, and then we're deciding how much it's worth spending on the next house as to how much equity we want to spare. And actually, we want a big enough house because our values are we want our children to be able to come and stay. A lot of people downsize, they go into a small house, then they haven't got room for the children to come and stay and potential grandchildren. And then they don't come visit very often because they have to rent a place because they can't fit in. So our values would be actually that we enjoy still going to my parents. And last Christmas, 11 of us crammed in, including the playroom, having sofa bed. But that was really important to us. So they've kept a bigger house, costs them more, but their value in
Yes.
life is to have us and grandchildren coming to stay whenever we feel like it. So we're going
Yeah.
through, but this is a very interesting, good way of reinforcing that and making us think, what is that value? How much do we value
Yes.
that? And how much will we keep spare? Well, hoping we are moving out of sort of near Surbiton, which hopefully will give us enough money to then enjoy life a bit. So, because, well,
Yeah.
not that we can travel, but travels are one thing in life that we both have very much in common, travel and walking and things. So this is a really good way of making you focus on
Yeah.
it.
And I think when it comes to buying bigger houses and things like that, it can almost get to a certain point where you reach maximum fulfillment from buying those things. You know, how much fulfillment is going to be buying a bigger house for you? Is it huge 6-7 big house in the suburbs, or is it just a small 2-3 bed flat that you get just as much happiness or fulfillment from a much larger estate? I don't know, but that's obviously down to you. That's down to you to figure out. But I certainly think that for everyone, there's that kind of ceiling there, isn't there?
Does anyone ever get like where they actually get fulfillment out of the stuff that they buy though? That might sound like a very
short term.
But that's the thing, like, and then as soon as the high is kind of worn off from that thing, then you've got to upgrade or have a look at something else. So it's like, yeah, those purchases never really fill that hole.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Again, that's why choosing values. So have a think about that in your own time. But the next thing I want to talk about, and I'd love someone to shout out an answer here, but why is money important to you? Who wants to be the guinea pig? Patrick, you go. You're on mute.
I would say actually money isn't that important to me. Save insofar as I'm able to do things that I generally like doing, which in my case, I don't see as being expensive. So I have traditionally played a lot of sport. Most of the sports I play do not require a significant outlay. The thing I like that does cost money is travel and seeing things, but much to my wife's disappointment, I don't necessarily use that on spending on things that I consider expensive, and that I will more likely spend money on seeing things than staying somewhere which I think is phenomenally beautiful, because I'm not aiming to be in the place I stay in when I travel. I'm aiming to wander around. So for me, the core route of working and earning money, I always like to enjoy what I do, and I do enjoy what I do, is that I'm able to use, or I have the resources to do the things that I want to do, none of which are particularly grandiose in their costs, rather than, for me, they're grandiose in that I enjoy them, not actually in their cost.
So you mentioned travel there, and so being able to enjoy the things you like doing. So why is travel important to you?
Always enjoyed traveling around since I went backpacking a long time ago. And I think it just changes, has different effects on your view on life. You learn a lot more. To me, the most enjoyable thing is learning and seeing new things. They're the things I enjoy most. I may be bad at many of the things I try to learn, but that's what I enjoy.
So traveling, learning new things, experiencing new things. Yeah, and why do you like learning and experiencing new things? Just drill down a bit further.
Perhaps makes me appreciate life more, appreciates what I have more, maybe engenders a belief that maybe if I do some other things, maybe it inspires me to work more in different ways, and changes my outlook. Working with other people from different countries, different spaces, across different types of business, makes you think in a slightly broader way and adjust the way in which you look or deal with things. And that even as a lawyer, dealing with lawyers from other countries or other types of lawyer, has an impact on how you look at the types of things you traditionally work with. So I like the openness and how it changes my mindset more than anything else.
That's great. So there's a lot of good juicy content there to get a clause into. And the reason why I'm asking those types of questions is because recognizing what really matters is almost the first step towards making kind of financial decisions and developing some sort of financial plan that's in line with your values. So whenever I sit down with clients, I really like to kind of ask those questions and not just take the first answer, but almost drill down. Okay, fine. So you said traveling. Why is traveling important? Or you said freedom. Why is freedom important to you? And it takes a few goes, but then you finally get to the real answers. And again, that's where you can start developing some form of crystal plan for the future. So I've spoken about values a lot. So now what I'd love to do is pass over to Natalie, who's going to spend 10 or so minutes talking about people's values, and perhaps you'd like to share some of the ones that I've sent to you already.
Yeah, no problem. I think some of you had the quiz that was sent through, but I've just popped it in the chat box if any of you haven't completed it. It's a really good, there's lots of quizzes out there, but it's a really good one just to kind of do regularly. I always ask the question, like, how often did we think about what we value? I think I did it when I was at university in a kind of personal development workshop. That was 10 years ago. Our values change as we grow, so it's really important that we do it regularly. And it's the first part that I work with a client, is actually just having that conversation and looking at that piece in itself. And I guess why our values are important, it's all about alignment. So Felicity, what you've just said there about the fact that, you're already doing it, it should be a constant check and challenge in our life to keep us on track, to be who we want to be and to live the life we want. And actually, if something is out of alignment, often there's a value being conflicted somewhere. So it's a nice tool that we can always have in our toolkit to kind of come back and forward to, which is really powerful once we kind of understand the power in it. So did anyone manage to do the quiz? And if so, what kind of came out in terms of your top values, top 3? You can put them in the chat box or shout them out, whatever's easier. Patrick?
For me, they were health, financial stability, accountability, justice, family.
Mm-hmm. And what were your, if you had to pick 3, what would you pick?
According to your 1, 2, 3, it's health, financial stability, accountability. Well, fairness probably comes high. Family inevitably comes high. Although sometimes these are difficult because they're broader concepts and they can overlap with each other.
Yes, exactly.
So I have told my son I'm going to go and live with him when I'm old, as he owes me 20 years of care. That's been rejected. Health, to me, health's the most important, because without health, I can't do any of the things that I wish to do.
Yeah, and I think what I'd say with this is it's just a tool to help you learn a bit more about yourself. If some of them come out and if they don't resonate, don't put them on your list. Because actually it's quite a good quiz, because subconsciously it compares these values with obviously the fact that they line up against each other and you have to pick one. So it actually tries to get you out of your head and into your subconscious feeling, which is why it's set out how it is. But if any don't resonate, don't have them on your list and go away and think about that. And also what I say is do it on different days in different environments, because if you're at work or if you're at home, your result will come out probably slightly differently. So I'd say do it again, maybe weekly for the next few weeks, and actually then kind of have your top 3 from that. But today is just a little kind of talk through in terms of how you could use the information really. Any other kind of number 1 values that came out really strongly? I think one of David's was health as well. Health's a really, really important, popular one.
Yeah, mine was the same as well. It was health too. I had a feeling that's gonna be the one.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one thing I like to ask next is actually how much you honouring that value in your life today, which is a very, very powerful question, because it's great to know our values, but actually it's about, are we living by our values? And that's the second question we ask. So I'd love to kind of ask you now, if for your top value, rate that from 0 to 10, 0 being I'm not honouring it at all, and 10, I'm honouring it completely. shout out what we feel like we are, because actually that's the test, that's the real test. Like, are we honoring that in our lives today? Patrick, you're nodding. What would you rate? I'm picking on you.
Not high enough.
No.
Too much time sitting at a desk.
Yeah.
So less sport than I would like. Not unhealthy, but not as fit as I would wish to be.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm about. That's my priority. That's what my startup is about. Yeah, I do believe that when health is on the point and you pay attention to that, then obviously you're unstoppable, because you are number one, you are the first one. And as soon as you are healthy, not just in terms of in your body, but in your mind as well, then you're unstoppable, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really great question to ask ourselves when we're making daily decisions. Does this resonate or align with my value of health, when you're kind of asking yourself daily questions as well? Because actually checking in consciously on whether we've got that kind of in alignment, again, helps us make the right decisions. Because constantly we have these choices as we go through the day, but we're not consciously aware of what direction we're turning in. So again, just asking for your top 3, you know, a few times a day, you know, does this honor or resonate with the value of happiness, health, family? It'll give you a little kind of, I like to call it a bit of a compass, a bit of direction with kind of what feels right and what feels kind of out of balance, which is really powerful, and we can start to use that. And I guess the next part of this is, in terms of health, I'm focusing on, how do your spending habits relate to that value that's a high priority, and actually does that align? You know, does that, are you kind of spending money in alignment with health, or prioritizing health through how you're spending your money and time? And I guess I'm looking at Patrick and Gina, but hopefully this is actually translating to everyone. I just think sometimes using one example helps people understand how you'd almost go through this process, really. Because that's how we're going to then translate it back into this topic. Everything should be a direct cycle with actually the choices we're making, really.
Actually, I connect with what you just shared, because what gives me joy is actually giving. Mm-hmm. And immediately you talked about, you know, whether you prioritize that. And I find that every month I actually give out more than I spend on myself or even family.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something that's happened psychologically in the background without actually realizing it. You just nailed it on the head, because to me, everything is temporary. There is nothing permanent. Yeah. And the only thing that I can really give, or that I can do, that would sit well with me, is to actually know that I'm giving something. And most of the time it's actually given financially.
Yeah.
I find out that I do more of that. And even my journey in entrepreneurship is from that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's what Samantha said earlier as well. Samantha said her value was contribution, and you felt like you were giving away a lot. But actually, if that's a value of something that's important to you, it's important that it's honored, but it's the sustainability element of that then needs support from someone like David, in terms of it's great that you're honoring that value through contribution and charity work and giving, but there also has to be a way that actually that's creating that cycle back to you so that you don't burn out. And I think that's the biggest question there, if that's something they're experiencing. But the answer is not to give, not to give, because obviously that makes you happy and that fills you up, which is super interesting. Anyone else, I guess, in terms of spending habits, can kind of think of a way that maybe their values are in conflict with a spending habit?
Mine's more with time. Because it's not making the income, because I'm spending my time. I have cut it down to about 10 charities and about 3 elderly, 4 maybe 4 or 5 vulnerable people. So it's more sort of, spending. I don't spend, we're very stingy really about what we spend on. We don't spend a lot on much, but on the yeah, that's the sort of more, it's actually, I'm trying to reassess to go the other way. I have cut it down to about 10 charities now that I help, but that still eats all my time, which eats into my family time, because then I end up, the bits of time I do end up working as well. Well, I work long times as well. So it's a mixture. By the time I've done fulfilled myself, because I like helping people and then I feel I can't let off, that's very selfish really, because then I end up spending a lot of time trying to work to catch up, which means I don't have the family time, which is my real time. So I'm sort of more recently trying to reassess that. So I'm trying to rein myself in and learn the word no. It was quite useful actually, because we went to Spain and France, and we went on holiday purely just driving from Spain back to France and then back home. And then we had to isolate for 2 weeks. And it was so a useful exercise, because I realized how much I run around helping other people unnecessarily. And some of them could do it on their own. They're just lazy toads. And I used to go off to the 81-year-old and, you know, sort out her things and everything, to find she then rang up saying, hey, do you want to come to Squire's nursery for a cuppa and things? And I'm thinking, and she drives. And there's me being rushing around like a lunatic, thinking she was trying to stay at home and not go out and mix and didn't want to catch anything. Yet I thought, oh, now on, you can do your own stuff a bit more. Actually,
it's the beauty of like pressing pause, which is actually the opportunity, and what we're experiencing right now is we get to ask these questions and actually go back to something that's different. And I think how many of us have asked that question as to kind of, is the life I was living before the same life that I want to go back to kind of when the is over? And, you know, how often do we get a pause to actually reflect on that and get off the hamster wheel? Like, I think people are starting to realize actually, like, yeah, I'm going to ask myself those big questions now, really, which is great to see, because that's where we'll get people living in alignment more, you know, honoring their values more, which leads to a better world, doesn't it, really? So no, I hope that's helpful. What I would like to leave you with is a kind of little kind of mini activity, and I will send David just like a few steps as to how you can work through this kind of in your own time. But in terms of that lowest value that you're not honoring, a really great exercise is to have a bit of a commitment statement around what you're going to say yes to and what you're going to say no to around honoring that value as a next step. And actually, that's then something you can play out into your life and then see a shift and see a difference. And all I'd ask you to do is think a little bit about that, the feeling associated with that value rather than just the word, because actually it's the feeling that we're trying to connect with here rather than the word. So that can be a really nice step. So yeah, Patrick, Gina, like in terms of health, like what's one thing you could say yes to that almost would help bring that into your life a bit more, do you think, after today? No pressure.
What do you mean? So obviously,
you know, honoring that value of health, like what could you say yes to in order to kind of bring that through into, to live by that value a little bit more in terms of health? Would that mean being more active? You know, would
I can't do any more than I already do, because I do I do all of it. Honestly, I do work out, I do eat healthy, I do pay attention. I started to meditate and journal a couple of months ago, so I'm keep improving that for sure.
Yeah.
My startup is all about that, so there's nothing more I can possibly do. Although I can always improve it, everything that I do, but
it's good that you're on that track. You're already in alignment with those things.
Yeah.
Patrick, you're smart. Anything you want to share?
Well, when I met my wife, I played sport every single day. And now I don't. So the natural deduction is divorce. But she's very scary, so I'm not going to do that. So probably it comes down to something Felicity alluded to, and what I actually talked to at with Aaron's excellent event on Monday, which is being able to say no to things that we do that, to be frank, perhaps It's not that we shouldn't do them, it's that we haven't really got time to do them, because that frees up more time to do the things that I wish to do. I think that's probably more, which is kind of what Felicity was alluding to. And it's not because you don't wish to do them because you don't want to help other people. It's simply that we waste time, and that takes away time. Yeah.
They're holding you back from actually getting to the point where actually you're living according to your values. And actually we call them the shoulds, which is kind of what you alluded to. So anything you think when you're asked that question, oh yeah, I should do that, that's a sign that actually like that isn't something that you're being driven to do, that's aligning with a value. That's actually preventing you from connecting with a value. And it's those shoulds sometimes that are holding us back, which is interesting.
Well, I mean, you end up in a moral dilemma insofar as some things, particularly with if it's work related, where someone needs help but they can't afford help, and you wish to help them because that seems fair, but from a business perspective, it's probably a poor choice. But then you end up in a moral dilemma. So it's those types of things, really.
Yeah, definitely. Perfect. Well, no, thank you, everyone. And like David said, I think we're going to go on to talk a little bit more about kind of the thoughts around money and as well as language, because actually a lot of that is subconscious behavior that actually is affecting how we are out in the world and our relationships with money. And actually it'd be really interesting to kind of like dive into that a little bit more, really. But yeah, hand back over to you, David.
Yeah. Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, as I said before, this really is just kind of scraping the surface. I've got so much content that I want to talk through, and I think what we should do is just devise kind of a 5-6 stage kind of workshop whereby we can cover everything off. But there's some fantastic content that's come out today, and I agree with you, Patrick. The ability to say no is certainly something I'm trying to learn to do in my own life. But I think it's so important, trying to asking the question, is your expenditure, instead of kind of time, life energy, in alignment with your values and life purpose? And really just kind of continually thinking about that. And if it does resonate with your values, then your life becomes all that better, doesn't it? I'm very conscious of time. I actually can't believe how quickly this hour's gone. What I'd like to do is touch upon one last thing before I let everyone go, and think about these in your own time, because often when I talk to clients about creating kind of financial well-being, the first, I kind of break that down into 5 elements. Now, I won't go into all 5 of those now because, as I say, we're running out of time now. But what I'd like everyone to do is get a pen and paper out if you can, and just start thinking about what your motivations are. Okay, so as an exercise, list down from 1 to 5 things you'd like to do that makes you happy. Okay, so from 1 to 5 things you'd like to do that makes you happy, and 6 to 10 what you currently don't do but want to do. So from 6 to 10 what you currently don't do but want to do. And this is a perfect way to kickstart a plan. And then ask yourself, how does what I've written down coincide with your values? Will this bring me more well-being and happiness in my life? Have a ponder about that, and perhaps that's something we can pick up in the next session with Natalie. What does everyone think about that?
They're big questions.
Yeah.
That's more difficult than it sounds like,
Don't shout any answers out now. Go away, have a think about that, and perhaps we can pick that up in the next session. But I think in terms of a few takeaway points, we've already kind of touched upon how helpful meditation is. And I'd highly recommend anyone that doesn't meditate to start meditating, even if it's 5 minutes a day. And then what you can maybe start doing is sitting down and being quiet with yourself and asking yourself a question: what thoughts about things, or in particular money, is blocking my flow of my energy? Just having to think about that and seeing what your brain comes up with. And more often than not, that your brain will just give you the answers. I try and meditate 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening, and over a course of a year, 2 years, it does start making a profound difference. That's one tip that I've learned. Second one, visualization. You know, if you want to go on more holidays, if you want to buy a luxurious car, think about having those images plastered all around your house if you really want to do. But visualize what it would mean to you having those things or having that money in your life. What does that mean to you? Again, try and align that with your values. And the third one, which I found quite funny, this is something I listened about, write a letter to money. Yeah, write a letter, a paragraph. That could be you slagging off money, saying how much you hate it. Could be saying how much you admire it, how much you love it. I don't know. But see what comes out with and be honest with yourself. And again, perhaps we can pick up what you come out with in the next session. But just have a go about doing those exercises and see what comes up. Is that all right with everyone?
Yeah, just a quick question. What would be the purpose of writing the letter? What are we hoping to achieve from that?
I've done that. I've written a letter to money because it was in that.
Yeah.
And what it showed me was how I really felt about money. Because when you're writing something so personal as a letter to someone else, like if you were writing a thank you letter to a relative for a gift or something, really put your thoughts and feelings and heart into that letter. So when you're writing it to money, whether you're hating it, loving it, whatever, you start unpicking things as you write about how you actually really feel and what you want to do about repairing that relationship. It's like having that relationship with the money. So you're writing to that partner, if you like, sort of saying how you feel. And so it's a good way of expressing hate or the frustrations of when you have money. But it's also a sort of even so sentimentality about it. Oh, I wish I had more of you, or I wish you were around more often, or I wish I could do this with you, or I'd love to take you around the world with me and stuff like that. And then that's when you start really aligning some of the value things with it. So
you're separating it from you as well, and I think because it's over there separate rather than all within you, you're able to have that almost subjective view of what's going on. And it's like it's so powerful just because actually a lot of this is actually entwined in our minds and our thoughts every day, and actually we need to put it over here in order to actually have a relationship where we can analyze it. But yeah, I love that concept.
Amazing.
Yeah. No, thanks, Sam. You've answered my question there for me. Thank you very much. Much better than I could do anyway. So hopefully some of you noticed I've put some things into the chat box. The first thing is the website, financialmindintelligence.com. Go on there. All the videos that I'm going to be doing with these meetings are going to be uploaded onto YouTube. Links on there, plus any other events that I'm going to be hosting in the future over the next few weeks and months. So feel free to register. But also 4 fantastic books that I've been reading. So You're a Badass at Making Money, Your Money, Your Life, Secrets of a Millionaire Mindset, and the Financial Wellbeing book. So I'd highly recommend anyone that hasn't done reading those books, buying the audiobook, and it really does give some fantastic content, some of which we've spoken about today. So that's it really. Does anyone else have any last comments or questions or thoughts before we go?
Just thank you, it was very useful.
Okay.
Been very good, thank you. Sort of thought-provoking it now.
Good session.
Think about.
It's amazing how quickly an hour goes. I was expecting to cover a lot more today, but it's been a really good discussion today. Really, really thought-provoking. Yeah, the next one will be end of next month. But I think what we'll probably do, Nat and I are going to try and devise just a series of workshops solely based on money mindset, because I think, as I say, there's so much content that we can be covering on this. So watch this space.
Is it
thanks
always
again,
on a
Natalie,
Wednesday?
for chipping in.
Sorry, is it always on a Wednesday, or when is it?
These breakfast meetings will always be on a Wednesday. The money mindset workshops that probably be kind of a separate thing altogether. We're not sure yet. So Nat and I need to sit down and try and put together a plan. But I'll certainly let you know.
Okay.
When would be
Make
good
sure
for
it's
everyone?
not on Thursdays. Can you make sure it's not on our Kingston Surbiton Omni local? Because tomorrow is anyone's welcome if they like. We've got our business networking group, so Aaron and I both run it. So if you happen to clash with our every other week meeting, we won't be coming. So
that's fine. We could do an afternoon session if that works for everyone. or an evening session. But I always think that in the morning my brain works. I don't know about you guys. I'll start shutting off around 5 o'clock.
I think having these conversations
Right.
first thing in the morning, it's good because it kind of sets you up for the day as well and gets you looking rather than just being in autopilot.
Yeah, you can just happen to avoid from the 22nd of October, every fortnight.
Yeah.
Avoid that one, please.
Okay. Okay. Lovely.
Patrick comes to that too, so there'll be 3 of us out, and the others are welcome
No
to
worries.
come too if they like. So but it would knock numbers down, which would be a shame because it's interesting. It's been really good. Thanks.
Maybe do a Monday or Tuesday morning or something.
Amazing.
Wonderful. Okay, everyone. Thanks ever so much again, and hopefully see you at the next one.
Thank you
Thanks
so
a lot.
much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.